So on that front, as we look at closing here today, and really what I'm going to do is just provide a wrap-up of what we heard Joe say and Tom say, and then some insight into what we're doing to try to address what we see as the consumer dynamic. So when we looked at the research, what was very compelling to me in some of the research that Joe showed us was that consumers are getting a lot of information from product labels, a lot more than I thought were actually reading labels. So when you think about the big issues, right, we all know that a lot of that information, consumers are getting that information and are then have that concern in the mind because they're seeing it in the general media. So 24/7 cable news, when an issue hits and it's sensationalized, if I'm a mom going in to shop in a grocery store, that's top of mind. So then when I step into the grocery store, I am then going to pick up that product and I'm going to look to that label to give me some sort of assurance or tell me something about this concern that I have. So I think first and foremost, when we look at the information, we hear what these two gentlemen have told us, we have to understand that consumers are relying on the media for the vast majority of their information. We also heard that they have constant confusion over what is right, what is healthy, what is cost effective, what is safe, what is green, and why is that? So those of us, again, in this audience, or the majority of the people in this audience, understand, because we work on ranches, we work on farms, we work in packing plants, we understand the production system. The challenge is with the consumer today, they are at least 3 generations removed from the farms and ranches where we all grew up. So the challenge is we have to bring them back. We have to help them make that connection again because they don't understand it. So when they're faced with when they're faced with concerns as a mom purchasing product for her family, and they're sitting in front of that meat case and they're saying, what can I feed my family that is safe and nutritious? And in the back of her mind, what she remembers is the news story that just resonated with her. What do we need to do? Well, we need to talk to her, right? We need to provide her as much information as we possibly can in a very transparent and authentic manner. Food, as you've heard today, is no longer just a purchase that you make. And it's not based on science. When I'm buying a food product in front of the meat case as a consumer that doesn't understand what all of you here in this audience understand, I'm making that food purchasing decision based on a lot of emotion. It is a very important decision I'm making. It's how I'm feeding my family. In our minds, and I'm a mother of 3. I have a 13-year-old son, a 10-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old daughter. I grew up on a commercial cow-calf operation. When I'm buying food products, I'm still thinking about these things. It dictates how my children learn. It dictates their health. It dictates our future. So we're not just making that decision based on a study that we want them to digest. It's an emotional decision. It's an important decision. Perceptions of health can drive decisions because we aren't in the paperclip business. So this is a quote. I was in a meeting with Polly Rulin with the Cattlemen's Beef Board, and she said, the difference is, folks, we are not in the paperclip business. We are producing something that goes into our bodies. That's a different decision as a consumer when you're purchasing that product. And as you heard from Tom, today's consumers are very diverse. So when you look at the research, and we're going to recap it here, over 60% of consumers are reading product labels. 61% of consumers think our food system is safe or very safe. 50% of consumers think it's important or very important to know if an animal is treated with antibiotics when purchasing meat, dairy, and egg products. And then 50 to 84%, and again, in this research that they produced, it depends on the retailer that they were looking at, but 50 to 84% across those retailers said that source verification was very important to them. So understanding where their food comes from. So what we've done in our business, and we're all about the third-party verification. That's what we do in our company. We're verifying all of these credence attributes every single day. What we've tried to do is now go to that next level and say we have to communicate the source and the traceability to consumers. And we have to communicate that message that the families want to take to them. And we have to be honest and we have to be transparent in that communication. Because your farmer has a family too. This is a picture of the Bice family, which is a group of producers that supply to a family that manages facilities that produces to the farmland product that Tom is purchasing in Iowa. Because your farmer has a family too. We've got to reconnect them with the sources of their food. And when we tackle a lot of these very difficult issues, right, because it's tough to talk about these technical issues with consumers. Just as Tom was saying, we're debating them here in this audience on a very high technical scientific level. When we have to translate those to consumers, it's tough. It is not easy, but we have to do it. We have to step up as an industry and start having those conversations and communicating to them the risks and the benefits. And we have to do it very openly and transparently. Because we can't for a minute step back and think that that mom making that decision in front of the meat case doesn't have the wherewithal to understand what we're talking about. We need to give consumers more credit. So I believe, as a person that my dad still ranches in southwestern New Mexico, that is our livelihood, that is our heritage. Us as a company that's trying to service the entire food chain, our collective responsibility is that we can choose to disregard and discredit this type of research. We can say, well, we didn't go to the next level, we don't know how this affects their purchasing decision, or we can choose to say, hey, a lot of consumers have concerns over our production practices. So we have got to address this and we've got to communicate with them more. We have to be transparent and honest. It is all about trust with the consumer. You've heard from these gentlemen that they will walk away, right? They have other proteins that they can go to. They do not have to eat meat proteins. So we have this trust, and it's a very delicate trust. And the only way that we can keep that relationship intact is by being honest. It's not dissimilar than a marriage, or a mom with a child, or a business relationship. It's all about delivering trust. We have to provide retailers with tools for effective communication. We have got to give them tools in their toolbox to be able to communicate with consumers when they get questions about the technologies we use as an agriculture and food industry. And there is no right and wrong. You know, we all understand why we need to use technologies, or should I say, the benefits of using certain technologies. What we have to be honest with is why we're using them, and then ultimately let consumers make the decision. At the end of the day, they're the ones purchasing the product. We must take the time to walk in a mother's shoes and understand, and these are I've gone through some of these bullets already, but also understand that we tend, because I think as a society, you tend to associate with people that think the same as you. And us in agriculture, oftentimes, I think we get into this mode of groupthink, right? We don't like people that will shoot in arrows at what we understand and what we know and what we believe. And so sometimes I think that's what it keeps us from being, is open to new ways of looking at ways that we can better communicate with those that may have a different position or a different way of looking at the world, because we all come from different vantages. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is reconnect consumers with their food producers, because your farmers, your corporations, the food industry, everybody in this room has a family too, right? We all want to leave this world a better place for our kids, right? We've got to then move past the technical conversation and have a very honest conversation about consumers, about what we do and why we do it. And this is why, and I want to see if there's a dry eye in the audience when I play this, but this is a video that we use with Tom Heinen's product, his lamb product, coming into his stores, and one of the producers It's Robert Ball, and I'm going to get choked up just thinking about the video. But we did this video shoot because it's all about them communicating directly about what they feel about the products they produce. And this is Robert Ball. It's the same gentleman right here with his two granddaughters, Claire and Esther. And this is what he had to say when we asked him, what would you tell consumers about? What do you want to talk about if you had the opportunity?
My wife, Debbie, and I have 8 children. Neil's the oldest, and Blake's my second oldest son. He's helping here on the sheep outfit and has 3 children. They really enjoy it, you know. And they've all said that they want to get married and be able to work on a ranch or a farm, because the experiences they get working. And my youngest daughter one time was a meeting, and a guy asked all the kids, what's your favorite thing? And she said, working with my dad.